Okay.
Lost my.
I think they should just buy it.
Terry, you ready?
Get into the business and sell.
This is not working right now. Terry, are you ready? Got it. Yep.
The email came, a couple more emails.
Good evening. Welcome to the Newton Town Council regular meeting of March 24th, 2025. Everybody can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can you please do a roll call, Terry?
Sure, Mr. Coos.
Here.
Mr. Dixon.
Here.
Mrs. Diglio.
Here.
Mrs. Teets. Here. Mayor LaBrus.
Here. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this regular meeting was given to the two newspapers of record and posted on the official bulletin board on January 3rd, 2025. Next up, we have the approval of minutes. We received minutes from the March 10th regular meeting and the March 13th joint Town Council Board of Education meeting. Any discussion or changes or amendments or?
Changes what we'll call it and will it,
The only one, Sandy, is about the spelling of Memory Park.
what,
You said spelling of Memory Park was incorrect. I didn't find that
Oh.
anywhere.
oh, okay, I'm sorry, that's
That's
it.
okay.
But the other ones you found correct, okay.
Any,
You already corrected before you did nothing.
okay, anyone else have any changes? All right, seeing none, can I please have a motion on the minutes?
I will make the motion to approve the March 10th, 2025 regular meeting and the March 13th, 2025 joint town council board of education meeting.
I'll second.
I have a motion to approve both minutes by Councilwoman Diglio and a second by Councilwoman Teets. A roll call vote, please.
Mr. Coos.
Yes.
Mr. Dixon.
Yes.
Mrs. Diglio.
Yes,
Mrs. Teets.
Yes.
Mayor LaBrus.
Yes. At this point in the meeting, we will have the first public session. At this point in the meeting, the town council welcomes comments from any member of the public on any topic. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit the opportunity for anyone who wishes to be heard, speakers are asked to take one turn at the microphone and please limit their comments to 3 minutes. The clerk will keep time. If reading from a prepared statement, please provide a copy and email a copy to the clerk's office after making your comments so it may be properly reflected in the minutes. Council may choose to comment after the entire public portion has concluded. Please identify yourself and spell your last name for the record. Do we have anyone in the public that would, okay?
Yes, good evening. Do you hear? Okay.
Yep.
Ludmila Mekash. I would like to take a moment to clarify a point for your last meeting where a defensive response was given by one of the council members. Due to the time constraint of the 3 minutes limit, I was unable to fully express my thoughts. Therefore, I would like to restate my point. At no point did I accuse any member of the council of neglecting their responsibilities. Rather, I was offering a different perspective by highlighting the size of Newton compared to other townships in our county. I understand that not everyone has had the privilege of growing up in an environment that fosters wisdom, offers opportunities for personal development. This is precisely why education is so important. In light of this, I propose that in addition to earning an association degree where it applies, council's members pursue further education or leadership training. This will better equip you to serve the people of Newton effectively, ensuring that you can fulfill your role as public servant without imposing additional tax burdens on our community. Second concern is in regard to my taxes 2024. I'd also like to address that concern. I have encountered some anticipated discrepancies that are inconsistent with the discussion I had last year with town manager and assessor. Because I am deeply invested in the well-being of Newton, I feel it is necessary to bring these irregularities to the attention of the governing body for further action. While I currently have a lawyer representing me in 2024 tax appeal, my independent research has uncovered inconsistencies that may be related to the town-wide tax assessment. I believe my case warrants further investigation into the actions of the responsible parties, including but not limited to the town management, the assessor, the town lawyer, and the assessment system. It would be greatly appreciated if the council could take on this investigation, as it would save me the time and the effort of having to approach the state for assistance in Trenton. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here from the public who would like to make a comment?
Sorry, I'm late,
That's all right.
running a little late,
No problem.
was in this traffic and everything coming from Morristown Hospital where my son is in there with blood clots in his lungs. So I've been running and running and running all week, trying to make sure he's okay. And so he got they said they found lots more blood clots in him. And then they never seen anybody like that, had that many blood clots, but they got the two main ones out of his lungs. So now he can breathe a little bit better. But it's just been too hard. Just as we travel down there and back every day, just about every day, just to make sure he was fine. And we rushed back to try to get that here tonight. So I'm here tonight because trying to save the house on Union Place, 20 Union Place. The loan was declined. So, but I'm still trying to get money for other places to fix it. And I talked to the architect that drew up the plans for me. He said the house was salvaged, but we would have to do something now. So I don't know why, that the town wants to knock it down when it can be saved. So I'm telling you what I want to do. I want to put plywood on the side of that way fell down until I get the money to fix it, if that's all right with the town.
Mrs. Coward, first of all, let me just say, I'm very sorry to hear about your son.
Thank you.
Sending him well wishes and prayers for a speedy recovery. That
Thank
is
you.
difficult, and traveling back and forth to Morristown every day, I can imagine is even compounded by all the issues that are happening on Route 80 and the traffic. So
Yes,
Godspeed and well wishes to your son,
thank you.
and you and Mr. Coward as you go back and forth. You mentioned that your architect said that the house is salvageable as is.
Yes,
Did he submit something to you to that effect?
on my phone, he talked to me. I texted him about it.
Because I think as of this afternoon, Mr. Russo's office, you had not received anything in terms of an update, correct?
I texted him and asked him about it, and because I asked him, you want me to read it or want me to bring it up?
You can
Okay,
read it.
he said, the only other way I can help you, the situation would be to have a co-owner that invests the money into repairing it. He said, unfortunately, the longer you wait, the more damage it would be happening because of the rain, wind, and deterioration. So that's what he told me. So he said the house is salvageable. So that's what I'm saying. Can we put plywood on the outside until we get the money to do it?
Unfortunately, that's not the council's decision. I mean, that's the building code officials' purview.
Okay. Joe Budo.
Mm-hmm. That would be Mr. Budo's decision, not the council's decision.
Okay.
Eric or Tom, correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
No, that's correct.
What did he say?
That is correct. It is the construction code official's determination on that issue.
Okay.
However, it's going to take more than simply an email, if it's even possible, to convince him. He's been on record on this issue for a while. The situation hasn't gotten any better. My recollection is the council's continuing issue relative to Resolution 91 was an attempt to see if there was a way to address the issue by the homeowner. And from what I gather, ma'am, I apologize for having my back to you. You did not get the loan?
No, I did not. They declined it. But we're gonna put in more loans and whatever. We'll see what's what.
Yeah, I mean, this is a decision from Mr. Budo's office. This is not, I mean, the council,
Well, the issue as to whether or not the house is salvageable is Mr. Budo's issue. The issue is before you all, for those of you English majors, is Resolution 91, 2025.
mhm.
And we don't have any more time, correct?
Correct.
We're at the.
Okay, do you have any other additional information, Mrs. Coward?
Well, we trying to get another loan, from another bank. So if,
I'm sorry, Mr. Coward, what was that?
Yes, we have an appointment Thursday for PNC Bank, try to get another loan. But I'm sure we can get this other loan because they say, what they denied the loan for, we didn't have enough access to what we were asking for. So we downgraded to a lesser loan, So, and that's why that's because of we don't have enough access to what the loan we were asking for. So we downgraded the loan. So, I'm sure we get the loan now.
And it's my recollection that the prior loan application was not going to be sufficient to cover the estimates on the reconstruction. Is that correct?
no, we had put in for a $200,000 loan. And the estimate that, the proposal that the guy gave was $259,000. And to me, that was like tearing down the whole house and putting it back up. But I don't think we have to do that because the wood on the inside is good. Joe Budo told us that we had to take all the bricks off. And what you call it?
But then one side of the building that's code enforced, that's messed up. One side of the building, that's all one side that just the bricks started falling down. They fell down in November, and they have no more bricks falling down since that time. So the house is not in a position like say, where it's really deteriorating at that point. So no more bricks have fallen down since the first time he was there. So that's it.
Okay.
And the possibility, if we get this squared away, I can start to go in there, and put this plywood up there, doing construction, and we get a permit to do this, put the plywood up there till we get the rest of the money they put together till we can get it together. And I know, like I say, I know it's only been since November. Since November, this started happening. So it's only been a few months, in the process of this house being to the point, like I say, they want to demolish it, not demolish, but demolish it, but, I like I said, the inside, I have walked in inside with all the people that have come there, and they said the walls are not budging nowhere, so, the structure, the house structure just is good. All it need to be is just the outside, just the one side.
Well, the bricks and the fascia of the house started falling last fall, but this has actually been in disrepair and in Mr. Budo's office, for 4 years? For 4 years. I know that you just took ownership or possession of it, but this has actually been an open case for 4 years with the construction official on the status of the house. But notwithstanding, do you have any other documentation or anything else that's been discovered in the last 2 weeks since our last meeting for submission?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else from the public? All right, Mr. Russo, do we have anybody online? Looks like we have a big group. Anybody online that has their hand up? All right. Seeing none, we will close the first open session and we'll move on to section 6, council and manager reports. Mr. Russo, please.
No, nothing at this time.
Councilman Coos,
Nothing, thank you.
Councilwoman Diglio.
I just want to inform the public that the plans for the Memorial Day Parade we have started. Our first meeting is on Friday. And that will be on Memorial Day, along with the service at Memory Park.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Teets,
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Dixon.
I just wanted to thank Dr. Picarella and all the members of the Board of Ed who joined us, the Public Works and the Police Department for a joint meeting. We were able to discuss things. It's always good to get together and kind of be able to get on the same page and share ideas, how we can, better the community and better the schools and the town and work together in
Yeah.
unison for that. So thank you, everybody who attended.
Anything else?
Nothing else.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Dixon. I concur. I think it was a really great joint Board of Ed meeting. There were a lot of things that were discussed, a lot of collaborative planning that was happening. I think there was already some follow-up to be had. So again, thank you, Michelle, as the liaison to the Board of Ed for bringing that forward and getting that scheduled. We had to postpone our meeting last week with Dr. Homer, who's the interim president at SCCC, but we look forward to having a discussion with him as well. Also wanted to share today that the Newton Stride and Sea Walking Club is officially kicking off. So this is being presented from the Town of Newton Recreation Department. So as the weather gets better, this will be starting April 15th on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if you're interested, please meet down at the Memory Park parking lot at 4:30 p.m. In an effort to continue to recognize that wellness is such an important part of everyone's lifestyle. So the walking club is started. The purpose is really to get everyone to stay active and healthy and explore scenic walking routes around the town, meet new people in a supportive, casual environment. You'll be walking at your own pace with no pressure. All you have to bring is yourself, some water, comfortable shoes, and positive energy. If you have any questions, please reach out to Danielle Finkel. There was a email that was sent to the council, and I think this will be publicized, but it's been requested and that Taste of Newton be moved to September 29th. So that will be forthcoming. And as an update, and so everyone knows, services for Pug Strawway will be April 5th from 1 to 4 p.m. at the VFW. And the family is encouraging everyone to come out and share stories about Pug, his longtime service to the town of Newton, and just the countless number of lives that he impacted living here and in his work here. There was no planning board meeting last week. The spring newsletter is now out in English and Spanish on our website. Work continues at the roller hockey. The last remaining work is the flooring, which is supposed to be happening this week. And I think those are the only updates that I have for now. No, I'm sorry, another update. The Sussex County Awards Luncheon is going to be coming up. And the town has put forth about 17 nominations for the various award categories. So I know everybody has information on that. If you're able to attend, please let Kat know. And yes, I think that's the only other information. Thomas had a couple of conversations with the leadership at Habitat for Humanity's Restore program, and they're looking at bringing a Restore into Sussex County and looking at Newton as their first priority site, and looking at locations. So continued conversations with Tom and the leadership at Restore. And yeah, I think those are the only updates I have for now. Okay, anything else from council or Tom at this point? All right, so this moves us to our unfinished business with regards to resolution 91-2025. Discussion from the council?
I have a question because at the last meeting, we were going to see if we could postpone the awarding of the bid for another period of time. I don't know where that discussion, if that was being checked into.
Tonight would be the night for award, or you can simply not award and we can go out to rebid. But obviously, we probably incur greater cost if we did that. So there's no extension beyond tonight.
The conversation.
As the one who I think maybe originally made the biggest push to grant extra time.
2 rounds, actually, we've done 2
Right,
rounds
right.
of it.
So the time was requested, the period was requested for the purposes of securing a loan. The loan was not secured. I think we're left with the decision of moving forward.
Anything else?
It's an unfortunate situation. But we have to weigh both the interests of the property owner and the community at the same time. And there are demonstrated structural issues with the house. Granted the request of time extension twice, as you said. I think that we have been fair to all stakeholders at this point.
Any other comments? Councilman Shields?
I agree. I mean, it's an unfortunate situation and, wish it didn't come down to this, but we also have to think the safety of others. God forbid there's an incident at the residence and, somebody gets hurt and that's on us. So I think we have to move forward.
And unfortunately, I do believe that in our previous proceedings, that it was mentioned that we would be granting the time that was requested, additional time was then granted. And at the last meeting, it was explicitly noted that any communication possible that was received needed to go through the office. And that if the loan was unsuccessful, that this would be the terminal decision tonight. This is not anything that's unknown. This was discussed from the first meeting in which this was brought out.
Mayor Dixon.
I mean, it's an unfortunate situation. Nobody wants to make this decision, but give them as much leeway as we can, and we have to do what's best for moving forward. So I'm in agreement with everybody else.
Yeah, no, I
Sorry, so to maybe
Yes.
to that position, the expression of future funding seems very unknown based on what was discussed. There was no co-owner involved at the moment. As far as it was discussed, there's no alternative lender that has been identified right now, and it seems very open-ended.
Mr. Russo, any thoughts from your office or?
No, I just think you have to you'd understand the sensitivity to the situation, but also understand that Joe Budo has been very patient with the property and has documented the situation the property is in. So we're on notice that there's an issue at that particular address, so action should be taken.
This is a safety and well-being issue, situation for sure. All right, so having said that, I need a motion and a second on resolution 91-2025.
I'll make a motion on resolution 91-2025.
We have a second?
I'll see.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Teets and a second by Deputy Mayor Dixon. A roll call vote, please.
Mr. Coos,
Yes.
Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
Mrs. Diglio,
No, I can't.
Mrs. Teets,
Yes.
Mayor LaFois.
Yes. Next up is discussion. We have Chief Danville. Please, if you want to come forward, continue discussion regarding our police staffing. Lieutenant Finkel is also in. You guys want to come over here and Mr. Ferry can sit next to Mr. Burstein.
Due to an amendment in the proposal that now has the administrative sergeant overseeing the special law enforcement officers, I believe there's now a conflict with my participation in this discussion. As such, I'm going to recuse myself from the discussion. Let me know when I'm back.
Okay,
When did we determine that that amendment was made?
I
When was
made,
that amendment made?
I made the amendment in between the council meetings,
there was a memo.
and there's a memo which you have.
Ask the most questions, so.
So Mayor and Council, you have an updated memo dated March 21st on police department staffing. There were questions asked at the last meeting. Police sergeant duties, we provided that information. Salaries, starting sergeant, top step patrolman, and the difference, the delta between, and then also the starting police officer salary. Information on Oprah's, video redactions, number of videos, hours redacting time. You have those for December, January, February. Firearms investigations, and then animal control revenues and expenses, which was pulled from the audit. So you have those. Last meeting, you were given a copy of the ordinance draft. And then Councilman Coos had sent an email last evening requesting additional information before his recusal. Information requested was annual overtime hours since 2018, law enforcement response volume since 2018, mutual aid partner utilization since 2018, annual report of incidents in which the sergeant was the primary initial sole responding unit since 2018, and annual frequency since 2018 for mandatory staffed in for shift coverage. Staff spent about 25 hours worth of time today on that, and everything was provided via Google Drive. I know you haven't had time to look at it, but all the information that was requested was provided.
Chief Danville. How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good. I'm gonna turn it over to you both for further presentation or to answer questions, I guess, right? I mean, is there anything
Yeah, I
else
mean,
that you want to
whatever-
add to the
whatever questions you
conversation?
have, gladly go through the documents that were provided if you have any questions about,
Those are the printed copies.
yes.
We only got those documents at 4:45 today. I've not had a chance to review any of them. Except for obviously the memo that we already received last week. So with that being said, I'm not comfortable without reviewing that first, having this discussion tonight.
The questions from last meeting that were outstanding before last night are in the memo. I don't know if you want to ask anything about them.
Good. If anybody has any questions about that? Go over that.
You see what I think? I don't know one. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, all of the questions that Councilman Coos sent last night that were answered today. First of all, thank you to you and your team for getting all that information. That was a lot of information. Right, I don't think we've had the time to look at all of it. But I guess my question on that would be, the data is good. The data is good to review and to have for sure, but I'm not sure what the data has to do with I think we asked about position responsibilities. We asked about what they would be doing as the HLEO and in terms of oversight. Deputy Mayor Dixon had looked on the website for the responsibilities of the other sergeants, lieutenants. And I think those questions were all answered in this memo. So I know that Councilman Coos had some additional questions with regards to overtime hours since 2018, number of call outs and all of that. Perhaps that was in an effort to just look at the incidence increases, not entirely sure, but I think the questions that the council had were asked and answered on this memo that was presented to us on the 21st. But what other either follow-up questions or questions with regards to responses does anyone have?
And Mayor, if I could just clarify, that the purpose of the ordinance is to have the council set the table of organization. It's the prerogative of the chief and the appointing authority, which is myself, to actually designate the work responsibilities for the staff. So what we're approaching you with is expanding the department based on the ordinance, which is your prerogative. But the actual day-to-day mechanics of what he or she or they may do is up to the chief and myself.
Yeah, I mean, when I was, again, briefly, we just received it, had the opportunity to quickly look at it, in addition to the couple of pages that was presented in the email or the memo of the 21st that got into the details of the position. I was thinking, wow, we're getting really operational here. And again, information is good, data is good, but I don't know that it's our responsibility to be getting into the assignment of the duties within the org chart. That's not been my experience. But certainly understanding the work, I can understand why the council would want to understand the division of the work. For sure.
If the argument is that there's more tasks coming on that need to be delegated, then I don't think we're overstepping our bounds asking, well, where are these roles gonna go and who's gonna have what?
Mhm.
I don't think that we're getting too far into the weeds here. I think it's okay to ask that stuff.
Sure. Did you have any other questions? Not to put you on the spot, but you're already talking, so.
Chief Van Hoolen was in charge. He kind of overseed the AOC. When was the decision made to kind of shift that off?
They need more supervision. It was kind of given to him and kind of ran with what we could. And they clearly need more supervision. That's just that aspect of this position that I want.
And I think actually his responsibility was establishing it,
Right.
right? So establishing a program and then the
Which he said
continued
was gonna be the
oversight.
harder part. I do remember that conversation, and he said, once it's established, you know, it will be good, and obviously it hasn't been good.
And they're busy. I mean, you know, it's a whole nother department. I mean, it's, you know,
That's full staff.
yeah.
And this is, as the chief said, this is one small part, not a small part, it's a large part, but one portion of the duties that will be assigned to this administrative sergeant position. There's an awful lot of other things. I know I'm not gonna belabor it by repeating everything that we talked about at the previous meeting,
Last
but
meeting.
this is just one facet of it. There's an awful lot of other things besides just animal control.
And just because we have a lot of public on, I'm just gonna ask both of you
Mhm.
to speak up a little bit when
Oh,
in the
sorry,
microphone.
sure.
That's right. Okay, other questions? Anybody, do you have questions?
Unfortunately, I was not able to go over the information that was sent today. So I haven't had a chance to look at it to develop any questions. As far as the memo that was sent here, I just found it interesting that all of a sudden we added that other responsibility as a full-time, to be in charge of the special officers. That was not originally in the original documents that you provided to us. And so it's like, I was questioning all the different duties that that particular officer might be assigned. And now there's another one, and it's like, it's almost like how is that person gonna do all those things? Okay, so I'm wondering about that, and I wanted to look at the information that was sent later this afternoon before I can actually make an educated decision on something.
I mean.
And you know how I am
Yeah, no,
about
absolutely. And
looking
then,
at
I mean,
info.
there's even more that could be added, you know,
Mhm.
depending on, another avenue that I want to look at is putting this sergeant in charge of the SRO. And maybe in the future, contacting the school to make that a part of the agreement that we have. I mean, there's no shortage of work. Right? I mean,
That I'm aware of.
and we are less officers than when I've started, and our work hasn't gone down. And our population's gone up, our businesses have gone up, our call volume's gone up. There are very large faceted areas that this officer could be tasked with.
Well, and that's where the case for support from me is that the department was a certain size, department size was decreased. Over the last 15 years, work has been added or work has increased because of decisions that have been made or volume of people, whatever the case may be. So to me, that's where, to even restore it back to the previous staffing model.
Right.
Doesn't seem like to me that that's an outrageous request. But certainly want to make sure everybody's questions are answered. So other questions that we have?
I just think we have to look at the whole picture too, like, this isn't just an affordable expense this year, like we'll have that expense for the next lifetime, right? I mean, and, so we're just doing our due diligence, obviously not,
Mhm.
disagreeing with what you're saying, because we see it, we see the monthly reports. And, I also, to Tom's point, I understand that, maybe we aren't, we don't get the opportunity to have much say in how you separate the work duties, but, there were some good questions that Councilman Coos had that I did not get to look at either. But, yeah, but I don't have any other specific questions at this time.
So what's it going to take the council to make a decision, to get to a point where we're able to make a decision?
I think we need to be able to have the time to look over the additional information that was sent to us basically this evening, so that we can make an educated decision at the next meeting.
Some of these increases are also due to, new law changes, some of the firearms issues and the Oprah stuff.
Unfunded mandates from the state.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfunded
That we have to
mandates.
respond back to.
The question I kind of thought when I was reading all this over is how have other towns of ours, similar to our socioeconomically and size wise, how have they handled it? I know we talked about Burnham
Yeah.
last week,
Yep.
but
Sparta has 3 lieutenants. Vernon has an administrative sergeant. They're actually going. I think they're gonna try to get another one. It's inevitable. They're increasing staff.
Yeah, and I think I understand the importance of looking at all the numbers and making sure, that it's backed up by the documentation, and I certainly understand all that. But we are here to let you know about the impact that these things have on our department day to day, because, for example, firearms, whether, I don't know what, might be a number to you that might make sense of like, okay, this is an increase or this is a heavy burden, but whether we do 2 a month or 20 or 2,000, I don't think necessarily so much the number that is important as much as how does that impact our department and how does it impact us day to day? And I think that that's why we're here. We can give you the context of what this means to us. And that's what I think we tried to do at the last meeting, is kind of give you a little insight of, well, here's the numbers, but that doesn't mean much without knowing what the impact is to our department.
So you bring up a good point. So what's the residual impact if the staffing is not adjusted? And if the work's not redistributed?
If the work's not redistributed, it doesn't go away. So it has to, something else has to adjust. So it'll just be we'll have to find another approach. And that could be paying overtime to somebody to do these things above and beyond. You know, as I mentioned, Lieutenant Wolanski and myself spend an awful lot of time on our own for free, just doing these things just to get the work done till we can get to a point where we can make some
Right.
administrative arrangements to have some support to do this, but that's not tenable in the long run. Either we're gonna have to pay someone to do it, or we will have to eliminate some other things that we do to make time to do these things. Those are not options that we think are the best route. That's why we're here tonight talking about this, but
And
these are mandated
Right, and
things, you know,
also-
that we have to do.
when we're doing all of this stuff, our main job on our productivity is it's taking away from us doing what we're here to do, is protect and serve the public,
Mhm.
investigate crimes, charge criminals, monitor traffic, you know. It's taking away from our core function. And I think that's a disservice.
I mean, it is true that much of our time as administrators is designated to handling these type of tasks. And it really, and you know, as I mentioned at the last meeting, I think one of our top priorities, if not the top priority that we need to have as the three administrators for the department, is to prepare the next generation of officers and bring them to the point where they're able to lead this department and maintain and exceed the level of service we're providing today, by being prepared for all of these things and getting them up to speed. And because there's only a limited time that we have as the three of us and Officer Flanagan, the four of us, the more senior officers, we're all eligible for retirement in the next under
yeah.
3 years, 2 years
Yeah.
and change. So that's where our focus needs to be, but our focus is instead right now on all of these administrative burdens. And I understand they're not the fault of the council or anybody else. These are a lot of unfunded state mandates.
Mhm.
And you know, nobody likes that, especially us, but they still have to be done. We can't not redact video. We can't not respond to these records requests and open requests and discovery requests and things, all of these administrative duties that take up so much of our time day to day. That's the impact that these things have on us every single day.
Yeah.
And every single minute that we spend doing those things, we are not focusing on preparing the next generation of officers. That's
Yeah.
my biggest concern overall.
Bar none,
And-
yeah. Lieutenant, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And supervision, right? We are the administrators. You know, we are there to supervise and lead the department, and we are bogged down doing all these other administrative tasks that things go by the wayside.
No, Lieutenant Finkel, you make a very good point, and that's something that this council, I know I have a concern about and have expressed publicly several times. Every time there's a promotion, every time there's a change in leadership, you know, the public has even commented on the number of chiefs, right? And it's because we've had a very senior department. And you're right, our three most senior officers right now with not only the position, but the tenure and the institutional knowledge are also up for retirement. And I do think that there is a gap in monitoring, oversight, skill building, whatever you want to call, mentoring, really, for our next generation of leadership. And actually, by adding this other position, we add in another leadership opportunity for someone in the foreseeable future that's going to be sitting in your roles.
Yeah, absolutely right.
So when we talk about, I mean, we've been talking about the importance of succession planning. To me, this is a key piece in that succession planning.
Great.
In addition to all of the work that's been outlined and the redistribution of responsibilities. So I don't feel like I need any more information, but certainly I want to make sure that my colleagues have all the information that they need to make an informed decision. And if not, I want to make sure that tonight we are asking for whatever other information that we need because the work needs to get done. as you said.
Yeah, thank you. And we're happy to.
Yeah.
Anything you have. I know, I know you haven't looked at the numbers and, but I think if you have genuine interest about the different impacts on the department, we're here to do that tonight. Like, we don't have to wait. Like, you can ask tonight, like the numbers, as important as they are, they're not going to give the insight in terms of how it affects our department as what we're prepared to discuss tonight. So if you're interested in
let's-
anything that we haven't covered, please ask.
Let's
We're here.
invest that time now. The information that was asked for was about overtime. It was about call out numbers. It was about incidents responses. Times when the senior officer in charge was the
Day
one
of
that was
the week.
responding and
Yep.
doing the work,
Yep.
day of the week.
Yep.
So you have prepared it,
Yeah.
present it.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Sure. I included 2025, but we're only 3 months in, so I would suggest to start with 2024. At least you have a full years of data. One of the things that.
So just, I'm sorry, Chief, so we can follow along. Are we looking at overtime hours and costs first? Or are we looking to responses,
gonna go
mutual aid
to-
incidents and mandatories?
I'm gonna go to day of the week because it's a pie graph. It's easy to look at. If you look at the call breakdown for the year by week, we are busy every single day. There's Sundays is a little bit of a drop, but every other day is on average. So there's really no lull in the call volume per day of the week. Call count by incident. 28,785 calls. And it's broken down by each call type.
So the 28,785 is the 2024 call out numbers.
Call
Okay.
numbers, yep. There was a question about mandatory hours. 377 hours for 2024. That is for road shifts. There's a breakdown of that. I think it was one of the later documents in your packet. But there's a breakdown of what the call the overtime was for. Whether somebody called out sick, injury, vacation, training, and so be it. Then there was a question about sergeants, their calls. We broke it down by our sergeants of 2024. You will see that there are 2 documents because our system wouldn't allow us to do the whole year, so we had to break it down 6 months to 6 months. On average, our sergeants are responding to about 2,000 calls each. So about 25% of the call volume is handled by a sergeant. And if you want to look at, we have a sergeant and 3 patrolmen on average. That's our fully staffed. So they're handling 25% of the call volume per shift. So they are handling just as much as a patrolman with added responsibility. Let's see what else. Time of the day. You'll see a reoccurring thing throughout the years. We have a lull, I should say, in calls between 2 and 6 in the morning. And that is when we have limited staff as well. We cut down to 2 people during those times because of the call volume that we've seen year in, year out. You're allowed to use what we call our pitman time. So our officers are granted 104 hours of pitman time a year. It is prorated. They get it in the beginning of the year and they can use that time to leave between 2 and 6 in the morning, come in late. If they need be, they are not compensated for that. Other
That
than
was work. It's an 84-hour
Right.
work pay period. So
So-
they're actual hours worked that are just cut somewhere else.
right. So they're not compensated for it, other than they can use it to kind of go home early or come in late on a weekend. Let's see. Overtime paid breakdown is what I was talking about. In 2024, there was 1,358 hours of overtime. And that was, I can read it, 147 hours was because of sick time, 133 hours was because of personal, 175 was because of vacation, 153 was because of training, 45 was because of firearms qualification, 12 was for court or transportation, 69 was for outside DPW or water sewer. 52 was caseload if they had to stay late working on a case. 111 were for parades and events, and 445 were because of injured on duty. Somebody was out on workman's comp. That was or somebody was deployed. You know, so we were down an officer. Let's see. So that is basically 2024. I can go over 2023 so you can kind of have a comparison in between 2 years. It is pretty accurate year to year, except for the call volume. Again, the day of the week, same thing. Everything is just about the same percentages, a little dip on Sunday, but not much. 2023, we had 30,659 calls. So let's say we were about 2,000 less in 2024 from 2025. I would equate that to having an officer on military leave, which is one officer less that was working. And if you just go to motor vehicle stops, just his stops alone, if he was here all year, would get us back up another 2,000 calls, just in stops alone. So that's probably where that dip was from. Mandatory was 387 hours for mandatories that year. That year we had 1,929 hours overtime, 147 sick, 137 personal, 178 vacation, 282 of training, 72 firearms, 18 court, 63 DPW, 78.5 caseload, 189 parades and events, and 752 injured light duty or other. Again, call breakdown time of day, almost identical to the year, same lull between 2 and 6. And again, our sergeants were handling on average 2,000. You will see it. One officer in there. It was a retirement. He only worked a couple months. That's why he's only got a couple calls. Let's see. That's that breakdown.
You know, and one thing important too that's not evident in the numbers is that there has been a change in the nature of the calls that we deal with. There have been an increase, at least, you know, in my observation, of calls that we deal with that are more significant in nature in terms of whether, you know, they involve a severe mental health situation. We've had an increase in weapons calls. We've had an increase in critical incidents and things like that, that, you know, you don't necessarily get from looking at the printouts of the numbers. I think a lot of you probably know that from just because you work closely with us in other capacities or involved in the first aid squad or different things. But I think it's important to know that things are busier and the officers are handling calls. Officers are handling calls that are more substantial to handle, even though it still shows that's just one call on the register.
And during the budgeting process, we heard, I mean, the first aid squad calls are up over the last several years, and the fire department calls are up over the last several years, which also means the police department calls for mutual aid are also up because they don't get called out unless you guys are there and vice versa.
Right,
Okay.
we got this first response.
Speaking of mutual aid, there are there was a request for call types where we ask for mutual aid. That's what
Bless
that's,
you.
there's a larger document in there.
Mhm.
It's just listed out by call where either Andover, the state police, or the sheriff's department also responded to those calls for mutual aid. The other one that was asked was for like outside road details that we called them for
Yeah, outside
mutual aid.
employment, mutual aid.
Yeah. Don't have a lot of data on that because we're calling the other towns and they're filling it. So I don't have a lot of data on it in-house. We did reach out. Andover provided us with a document of the calls from 2018 to now that they had sent an officer for
Support.
support. And then Hardiston also sent me a copy of theirs as well. Sheriff's Department was contacted. They do not have any way to get that information, so we don't know how many hours the sheriff's department came and helped us between those times. And going prior to Lieutenant Wolanski, which is only the end of last year, I don't have any data in-house on how many times we mandatoried somebody for a parade or a Newton Day. It was you're mandatory and they were just put on the list. It wasn't listed as a mandatory in our scheduling software. So I don't have those numbers, but all I got. I think at the end of the day, our sergeants are busy. They're handling calls just as much as the patrolmen, and they have added responsibilities on top of answering their calls.
Yeah, even when a sergeant is not the primary officer on the call, they're still intimately involved in each call, especially with the younger officers that we have. Coaching the officers through it, maybe something that they haven't run into before, making sure that things are done legally, and
Right.
all done properly in accordance with our policies. They have a lot of responsibility in addition to, as the chief said, answering their own call load, handling their own investigations and different things. They have those additional responsibilities that Councilman Dixon was asking about last time. They have a lot that they do.
Right.
And that's in addition to just being the primary investigating officer on those calls. So there's an awful lot that goes on in a patrol ship. Right?
Those calls were the calls that the sergeant handled, not necessarily calls that the sergeant was on.
Mhm. Thank you for the overview. Questions on any of that?
A lot to try to take in. I was trying to find it on here, but with the pages this way, it's
Yeah.
not that easy.
Yeah, a couple times my head,
Yeah.
as I was
I'm
waiting
like-
for it to download, trying to read it sideways.
Other questions for Lieutenant Finkel or Chief Campbell?
Is the current posting for an entry level police officer? If we do this, or is that?
No, that's to replace Wolanski at the end of the year.
Okay, so we're
Yeah.
planning for
Yeah.
his terminal.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if this was.
When is he
approved, that would
retiring?
Also be.
I believe his terminal leave will probably start in November, December.
Hmm.
So we're trying to get ahead of that.
Yeah, and this is a whole nother thing that we gotta look at is that if we do have an officer at the end of the year that's eligible to retire, and if we have another officer that ends up being, replacing someone to become this administrative sergeant, we have to look at, the long term, how long it takes to train an officer. So the academies don't start until probably January. So we either have a summer academy now, or we have January academy. If they go in the January academy, they graduate in the summer. They don't finish field training for about 3 months after that. You're looking at the end of 26 if we wait. So that's why we take the applications early, start background investigations early. Another administrative task that is handled by the Detective Bureau, but is very important to do properly because we need to make sure in a
Right.
department of this size, we need to make sure we have the best candidate possible for each position. So that's why we really need to make sure that we get a jump on this and get things going as early as possible, so we're not under the gun.
You're an officer in the academy now, or gonna be going in the academy?
We have a special
we have
officer in the academy.
Special, yeah, we have a special in the academy now.
Yes. We had talked about if this didn't happen, I think it'd be good to. They kind of said that they'd have to have alternative plans on how to figure this out. It'd be good to know what those alternative plans they'd be looking at, like. Yeah. They have to cut things, like, I'd like to know what the alternative would be to this. Said no. What's the alternative?
Like Lieutenant Finkel said, I mean, the work's gotta get done, you know,
Right.
it's just gonna have to authorize overtime.
So that's
Yeah,
the only solution is overtime.
I mean, the work's not going away,
I understand that.
you know.
Yeah, or a reduction in
That's
service.
What I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that,
I mean, we could reduce ACO, but we still need an ACO. And we're still gonna have to fund it. And yeah, we'll have less calls, but we still need personnel, still need the shelter. And now we won't have revenue coming in from any other town. So. I mean. I'm-
And that's a
I'm for anything,
small
but-
part of this. Well, not small, but it's
Yeah.
it's not the whole reason for this. And I was just looking at the quickly,
Duplication Service that we have too.
I'm sorry, say it again.
There's a large duplication of service that we have too,
What do you mean?
dispatch. That's a duplicated service could be provided elsewhere.
But dispatch, dispatch is being hired, or handled by dispatch. That's not being handled.
Yeah, but don't they oversee them? Isn't there responsibilities for them for that? Isn't that what one of the lieutenants oversees?
Sure.
Yes.
Consideration, all I'm saying.
So what do you,
Said it's-
Getting rid of that, then we're gonna be rice noticing employees, so just keep that in mind.
Michelle, were you about to say something?
No, you know how I feel about keeping a dispatch center, especially in a town like this, and with a younger, more inexperienced, police department, it helps having some, and some experienced dispatchers working the other side of the radio and of the phone that know the town, know the residents, know the locations, know the cross streets. You're not gonna get that when you go to countywide dispatch. I'll debate that with anybody.
Yeah, we can debate that because I deal with countywide dispatch and it's in other areas, so we could debate that.
Sure.
Yeah, and another consideration, as you know, is that our dispatchers do a lot of different things, not just answer 911 in the radio. There's a lot of things that, again, would then lead to unmet needs in terms of administrative stuff that they do as well. Part of what we've done over the years is shift some administrative, workload to the dispatchers. So if we didn't have the dispatchers in-house, that would just be one more thing. that would
Every
be-
firearms background investigation gets run through dispatch. They have 1 million checks that they have to do for firearms. Every applicant,
Every
you know.
DV packet, which
DV
would then
packets,
fall upon the police
So the
department.
level of service that the dispatchers provide the town and the police department. You're not, I hate to say, it, you're not getting those documents from the county
And they're
in a
in-
timely fashion.
and they're in our lobby. We have so many walk-ins in our lobby, probably more than some city precincts, I bet. I mean, we really have
Well,
somebody
plus
has to be there.
that's our Code Blue Center.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the reason that we don't pay someone to staff our Code Blue Center is because we have that as a limited resource. That is, we have somebody already there to monitor what goes on. There's no other place like that in town. So when if that capacity is exceeded, the option is open the firehouse as a warming center with paid staff, overtime, other things.
That we just spent how much money upgrading all of our equipment in dispatch. You know,
It's a complicated, it's not a straightforward answer. I think we could all agree on that.
Well, there's inherent differences also between our municipality and the others because of the fact that we're the county seat, we have the county hospital, I mean, so on and so forth. You know, not only is that an impact on our percentage of ratables, but it's also an impact on our services. I mean, I think that could be easily demonstrated by the swell of people that come into the town during business hours that are here for court and hospital and churches and human services and county and all that. I know we've had that conversation several times about what that impact is and.
Yeah.
I mean, that's even partially why, I mean, we haven't gotten to that part of the agenda, but the Newton First Aid Squad is seriously considering or working on trying to get, you know, reimbursed and paid. That's a whole other side conversation, but that's the increase on their calls and their ability to become a paid service, but.
My suggestion, Mayor, I think, Matt has some good points about alternatives. So if it's okay with all of you, we carry this to the next meeting. I'd like to flesh out some alternatives with the chief and Dan. Kind of go, and I'm not saying these are good or bad, but just overtime, additional officers, detective, captain, deputy chief, lieutenant, civilian, just if it's a different staffing model, what would it look like? Because I think to preserve the integrity of the discussion is assume all the services are the same. Dispatch is the same, animal control is the same, because once you start to carve it,
Right.
you start to lose the integrity of the discussion. And then I don't want to have to start race noticing the employees in fairness to them. So I would, if it's okay with all of you, just say, just assume the pie is what the pie is. But is there a way to create an alternative? Because I know it's more than just a financial. I mean, it's partially a financial thing like Michelle was talking about, but it is also the scope of the size of the impact of what this looks like. And, keep in mind, we haven't done this for quite some time. So looking at this every 5 to 10 years is a reasonable exercise on the part of all of you. That's why I brought it to you for discussion. Because you can see how these agencies change every 5 to 10 years based on funded and unfunded mandates. So I know there was some concern at the last meeting, that John Paul had expressed, and I know Matt has some level of frustration, but it's a good exercise though, because you're really creating the blueprint for what this department's going to look like, God willing, for the next 5 to 10 years, which is most likely beyond most of us in this room, candidly. So if that's
He
okay,
means
Mayor.
working, not living.
You don't know.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
No, I think if that's okay, Mayor, I'll pull that together.
Yep.
Like, we'll just assume static in terms of Surgus, what was in the last
Appreciate that.
memo. And if it kind of pushes you in a direction, and trust me, we understand, and it's
Right.
like, we live this every day, and you guys come to the meeting and you got 1,000 pages handed to you, and I know, and I do need to say, Jennifer all day, Chief most of the day, Dan, Carol, and it was a payroll day, so hopefully you all get paid Thursday, but like they did, it was about 25 hours worth of work today, so.
And I mean.
Credit to them.
And
Credit
that
to them.
too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So the other thing I just want to also mention, because I just had a quick opportunity to chart this, but in budget discussions, and gosh, I hear Joe Ricciardo in my head when I'm saying this, but during budget discussions, always the conversation of the police department overtime comes into question and the impact on the budget. And it has been a request of this council over several years in terms to just look at overtime and what can be done and spread out and work spread out. And when I look at the overtime numbers from 2018 that have been presented, I mean, the department has decreased the overtime hours and the impact on what that's been in the budget. I mean, in 2024, it was $100,000, 1,500 overtime hours, but there were years when there was over in 2019, over 30,000, 3,100, 3,120 overtime hours, right? And it was sitting at about, 2,000, 2,100, 2,900, 2,200, 2,000, and now last year, 1,500. So you guys have done you've responded to that request, right? Tom's made that request.
I think you guys have also responded and we have 4-man squads.
Right.
Like we're filling the vacancies. And again, like this new hire, we're filling it before Lieutenant Wolanski leaves and now we're 8 months without having a guy. You guys have filled that, letting us hire early and filling those positions without these long gaps of being
And-
down.
And
which is
quite frankly,
great.
when you do the additional analysis, Tom, I mean, if the response is gonna be that we're gonna now double overtime, to me, that's short-sighted, right? Because first of all, that's wear and tear on the department. I don't think that long stretches of overtime is,
It's not
it's
healthy.
sustainable, it's not healthy, it's not,
There
it's
are
not,
some departments that will live on that. and that's
absolutely,
their policy.
right.
And that's up to
It's
the-
my opinion that long sustained overtime is not sustainable, it's not healthy, it's burnout. I mean, you're just asking for, people to be tired, not be on the job, not be responsive, like that, to me, that's a health and wellness situation also. So if the response in your analysis, and I appreciate you, Tom, Chief Lieutenant, wanting to do some additional analysis, we're gonna be, this will be a 6-week conversation. I appreciate that, but if the response is that we're gonna double overtime, I don't know that I'm in favor of that either, and I feel that that would be short-sighted. But that's just, that's not, I don't know, the data, we'll see what the data says, but that, when you say that the response is, and agreed, the work still has to get done, the mandates still have to be responded to by the state, all of what you said. To me, overtime is not the answer, but let's do some additional analysis. Is there anything else that, and if you get the information to us as soon as possible, I appreciate all of the work that was done today, the 25 hours of collective work. I mean, I don't even know what, if we price that out, what that would be, or what, or what doesn't.
I
You
did
did?
that too.
Or, well, what's the number?
It's a few $1,000s, but you're worth it.
Yeah, but also like what wasn't done, right? In,
Yeah, it's- We do what we have to.
So is there anything else that the council would be looking for? And sometimes data then creates more questions. I get that. Or, as you work through additional analysis, that might present some more questions. Our next meeting is when?
April 14th.
April 14th.
Yeah, we'll have it ready.
So you have an extra week.
We'll get
Right,
it
there's an
together.
extra week, right? Because we have, okay.
We'll get it together.
Anything else that you guys want us to know or need us to know?
No,
No, I appreciate
you.
your time and
Yep.
appreciate you looking diligently
Yep.
at this and working with us.
We appreciate your
100%.
responsiveness and
If-
your
Absolutely.
willingness to
Appreciate your
give us all the
support.
information.
absolutely.
And if you can hang out, there may be questions from the public.
Sure.
Yeah.
So thank you. I'd appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we get Councilman Coos back in, please?
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Chief.
Mr. Ferry, you can have your seat back.
You poor Tom. It's Tom's fault.
Let it be known, Councilman Coos has rejoined us at 8:16 PM. All right, we're gonna move on to ordinances. We have a second reading and public hearing on ordinance 2025-5. This is a bond ordinance providing a supplemental appropriation of $7,210,000 for various sewer improvements in and by the town of Newton in the county of Sussex, New Jersey, and authorizing the issuance of $7,210,000 of bonds or notes of the town for financing part of the appropriation. At this point in time, we'll open the hearing to the public. No, this is a hearing regarding ordinance 2025-5. We have anybody from the public wishing to comment on ordinance 2025-5? Tom, anyone online?
No hand.
Okay, seeing none, we'll close the hearing to the public. Do I have a motion to act?
I'll make a motion to act on ordinance 2025-5.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Teets and a second by Deputy Mayor Dixon. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Coos,
Yes?
Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
Mrs. Diglio,
Yes,
Mrs. Teets,
Yes.
Mayor LaFois.
Yes. Ordinance 2025-6. This is an ordinance providing funding for the Memory Park Connector Boardwalk Project for the town of Newton and appropriating $303,678.24 for such purpose. We will open the hearing on ordinance 2025-6 to the public. Seeing none, Tom online?
No hands.
Seeing none online, we'll close the hearing to the public. Do I have a motion to act on ordinance 2025-6?
I'll make a motion to act on ordinance 2025-6.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Deputy Mayor Dixon and a second by Councilwoman Teets. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Coos,
Yes.
Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
Mrs. Diglio,
Yes.
Mrs. Teets,
Yes.
Mayor LaFois.
Yes. And we have introduction tonight of ordinance 2025-7. This is an ordinance to amend, revise, and supplement chapter 100 of the Town Code of the Town of Newton entitled Fees and Costs, most notably section 100-13 Animals and section 100-24 Miscellaneous Fees and Charges. Tom, can you provide an overview, please?
Yeah, that was based on the conversations we had last couple of meetings, well, last year and this year regarding fees for the animals and also miscellaneous fees.
Any questions from the council regarding the introduction of this ordinance? Okay, do I have a motion to introduce?
I'll make the motion to introduce ordinance 2025-7.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Diglio and a second by Councilman Coos. Roll call, please.
Mr. Coos,
Yes.
Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
Mrs. Diglio,
Yes.
Mrs. Teets,
Yes.
Mayor LaFois.
Yes, the public hearing on ordinance 2025-7 will be held on Monday, April 14th, 2025 at 7 PM or as soon thereafter as the matter may be heard. All right, ordinance 2025-8 is also up for introduction. This is an ordinance to amend, revise, and supplement chapter 258, the stormwater control in the code of the Town of Newton. Tom, any overview on this?
Changes required by DEP as recommended by our town Corey Stoner.
Any questions for Ms. Russo on this ordinance? None? Okay, do I have a motion to introduce?
Make a motion to introduce ordinance 2025-8.
I will second the motion.
I have a motion to introduce 2025-8 by Deputy Mayor Dixon and a second by Councilwoman Diglio. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Coos,
Yes.
Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
Mrs. Diglio,
Yes.
Mrs. Teets,
Yes.
Mayor LaFois.
Yes, this ordinance will also be heard on Monday, April 14th at the regularly scheduled council meeting. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the town council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Tom, can you please review the consent agenda?
Sure, 106 is an award for professional engineering services for Morris Lake Water Treatment Clearwell and High Street Water Tank. 107 cancels a grant receivable of $59.06. 108 cancels a grant appropriated reserve 169.17. 109 cancels grant receivable $1,708.45. 110 is a renewal for taxi cab license for Gavin Spicer. 111 allows the resolution to be read the budget by title. 112 is self-exam of the budget. 113 change order number 1 for Marsh Lake Water Treatment Plant Cameroon Rehab. 115 junk dealer's license George's Salvage. 116 junk dealer license Newton Auto Exchange. Credits due water sewer utility accounts 117, bills and vouchers 118, and we have one resolution off consent.
Are there any resolutions on the consent agenda that need to be discussed or pulled for further discussion or conflict? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Teets and a second by Deputy Mayor Dixon. A roll call vote, please.
Mr. Coos,
Abstaining on checks 12799, 12811. Yes, other ones?
Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
Mrs. Diglio,
Yes.
Mrs. Teets,
Yes.
Mayor LaFois.
Yes. All right, so we have a resolution that's off consent. This is resolution 119-2025. This is authorizing the town manager to execute correspondence regarding the authorization of Skylands Emergency Medical Services LLC, doing business as Newton Emergency Medical Services, to provide emergency response at the basic life support level within the town of Newton. Tom, do you want to provide an overview on this?
Yes, we received a request from the Newton First Aid Squad. They're looking to expand their horizons and create Newton Emergency Medical Services. And as part of their approval process with the state, They had contacted me about authorizing my signatory on their correspondence regarding the Skylands Emergency Medical Services. I'm sure one or two of the people here could speak to this, but I think it's a very good request, so I have no issue, but I wanted the council to authorize me to sign off on this entity to provide BLS within the town.
So this conversation has come up off and on in previous years with regards to the Newton First Aid Squad changing their structure, becoming billable, et cetera. I would like to have a presentation by the leadership of the Newton First Aid Squad to the council, just talk about what that process is going to be, what's it going to mean for residents, what changes, if anything, happen for call outs, how do people get billed, is it for residents, non-residents, like just because it's been quite a while since I've known about what the update or the structure is going to be and what the response changes might be. What does it do for the other emergency services that are also contracted to respond if in the event that the Newton First Aid Squad is on another call? Like just, I don't know that I fully understand the scope and the impact of the changes of not only the reorganization of the business structure, but then the impact to our residents. So I don't know what, I'm gonna not look over here for now. I don't know what the two of you think about having a more formal presentation, but I would like one just to be able to answer questions as information starts to come out that people are going to, I think, gonna have.
So I don't think that's a problem. I just wanna clarify that that's not gonna put a wrench in any timing, so to speak, because this was for state for approval.
So I'm just gonna ask one question. Eric, do we need to have the two members in the leadership of the Newton First Aid Squad step down from the dais at this point to answer any of these questions that might be forthcoming?
First of all, I don't know if they're authorized by the squad to answer those questions, whether they step down or not. I think it is appropriate. I think the question you're sort of asking is if this resolution is not adopted tonight, does that have an impact on the matter going forward? I can't answer that question. This is a procedural issue. The process, and I have gone through this in other towns, is not exactly an overnight process. So I don't see, at least at this moment, authorizing Mr. Russo to sign a piece of paper necessarily binds you into a total reorganization of the squad and the issue of billing and EMS and who you're leaving on the side of the road. Such as you can't distinguish between residents and non-residents, et cetera. There are requirements, but I don't see this resolution in and of itself binding the town into a future that it may or may not want.
So fair to say that we could proceed with this and then still have that presentation at a later
Oh,
date?
I would severely recommend that decision because you're going to get a myriad of questions that you will not be able to answer, starting with the whole billing process alone. Because you're going to end up going out for that part as well on top of everything else. It'll be a third-party biller.
Right.
No one that I'm aware of who does EMS billing does this in-house, so be aware that there is a whole separate world out there.
Yeah, and those
for
are just
that-
some of the
just
questions
for
that-
that alone.
And that's just one part of the questions that I think I have.
I may have to call Newton First Aid Squad, whatever cough drop you gave me. But anyway.
Right now, it's cheap, of course.
So I know that request that I made has not really a lot to do with the resolution at hand, but I just thought it was an appropriate time to request a presentation just to give us an update on where the squad is at and what the plans are and what the forward plans will be.
I assume the manager will seek out that information and require a presentation
On it.
without asking anyone on the dais to commit.
On it.
Okay. So having said that, I need a motion to approve the resolution.
Make a motion to approve resolution 119-25.
And I'll second 119-2025.
I have a motion by Deputy Mayor Dixon and a second by Councilwoman Teets. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Coos,
I abstain.
Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
Mrs. Diglio,
I abstain.
Mrs. Teets,
Yes,
Mayor LaFois.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item 11. This is the second open to the public. So rules apply as the first. Town council welcomes any comments from any member of the public on any topic. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Identify yourself and spell your last name. Do we have any comments in the second portion public here for?
Ludmila Mekash. So good evening again. I would like to begin by thanking Councilwoman Diglio for voting no on the proposal to demolish the home of this unfortunate couple here. As for the other 4 councils member, I truly cannot imagine how you can rest easy tonight, knowing that you voted yes to demolish their property. I had the opportunity to speak with this couple and ask them questions. After reviewing the proposal from an engineer and architect, I believe there is sufficient evidence to give them the opportunity to save their property, which they just acquired 4 months ago. As new owners, I believe the clock should rest. The past 4 years don't matter. While I have great respect for the Hardiston Building Department and its inspection expertise, the 2 professionals hired by this couple are highly educated and, in my opinion, should have been taken into great consideration. With common sense, security precautions in place, this house can and should be saved. As a governing body, it is your responsibility to support your citizens and not wait until they are in distress before purchasing their properties, as I have observed and doing my homework that has happened in the past few years. I cannot fathom what it would be like as a homeowner myself if this were happening to my family. While the vote has passed, I urge you all to reconsider your position and allow this couple the time and opportunity they deserve to save their home. You just heard this lady coming around into this meeting and informing you that one of her child is fighting for his own life. So you can imagine the 30 days you gave last month, it would not be sufficient. So thank you for your time and your consideration.
Any other public comments?
Yes, my name is Rufus Coward. Coward, Coward, right? I have a question. The question that I want to ask you is, okay, when is a possibility when can we save this house? Any kind of way can we save this house? Because this house was a gift from God, amen. This house was a gift that we a gift from God. God gave us this house, and to have it tore down in a position like this year, it's I think it's unacceptable with what we are talking about. Just a half side of the house is just need to be framed up, and with all the construction around the town of Newton, I have been around the town for 58 years. And I have seen all the kind of other stuff that goes on in the town of Newton, which, you know, there are other houses in this town of Newton that's been demolished, that's been deteriorated, and I have not seen them tore down in this short period of time. So we just asking for more time to get this house back together. Thank you.
And I just want to say, God gave us this house. And I just want to tell all of you sitting right there today, don't mess with God's people. Don't mess with God's people, because I'm telling you, God don't like what you're doing. We trying to be as cordial as we can. But don't tear the house down. Don't tear it down. Don't touch it. Until we can get stuff to do it with. I'm telling you, you better hear me. And you better hear me good. Cause God don't like what you finna do. I'm gonna tell you right now. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Russo, is there anyone online?
No hands.
Next item on the agenda is the hearing on the 2025 budget. Mr. Russo?
So you all received a copy of the PowerPoint presentation. I'll just walk through it. Start on page 3. Appropriations for 2025 total the amount of $16,087,577. On page 4, we have top 10 budget appropriation increases by dollar amount, group insurance, road repair and maintenance, utility expense, bulk purchases, planning board other, that's where we put the funds in for the affordable housing plan, reserve for uncollected taxes, the manager's office other, which is the redevelopment line item that traditionally has been separated in the CIF, buildings and grounds, legal services, fire department, that's where we put the funds in other for the fire museum, national registry that Jessica's working on, and recreation salaries and wages. As far as revenue history for 2025, state aid, $1,040,023, local fees, fines, interest, $974,240, fund balance, $2,140,560, delinquent taxes, $356,800, municipal taxes, $10,330,800. Shared service agreements, $276,262, grants, $146,533. Special items of revenue, $822,539, total $16,087,577. The net value taxable in 2024 was $1,041,882,244. This year it has gone up to $1,109,165,654. Therefore, the average tax increase on the average assessed residential property is going from $3,113 to $3,149, an increase of $3 a month. Page 7 gives you a tax rate history from 2016 to 2025. Page 8 gives you the tax increase on the average house, which is $36, which is the same as last year. Fund balance, the aforementioned fund balance is on page 9, amount used to support the budget. We had available $4,271,398. Utilized $2,140,560, balance $2,130,838. Page 10, revenue comparison from Tom's office gives you an idea of the revenues from 2013 to present. Capital projects for 2025, we have the CIF, we have road improvements, Mountain View Street, Palmer Street, Trinity, Moran, Garner, Pine Street, Mason, Lower Union. We have funds for the Memory Park Connector Boardwalk. We have the new snow remover for DPW. We have the phase 3 of the Firehouse number 1 renovations exterior, that's building and property. Radio tower upgrades, replacement of a 2021 Ford Explorer, and the MDT's automated license plate reader for the police department. CIF, you see, is now winnowed down based on how Tom handles the budget different than Monica. So we have the CIF down payment. You have the signboard trailer for DPW, recycling center upgrades of $90,000, electrical improvements at Memory Park for $50,000, and then my account where we do furniture and other building improvements of $25,000. So CIF $402,170. Water budget, page 13, $6,182,000, servicing 2,775 accounts. Revenue comparison on page 14 shows you revenues from 2013 to 2025. Fund balance was $3,477,961. Anticipated $1,206,000. After intro, $2,271,961. very brief amount of projects because you all know the projects that we're working on based on Eleni's presentation the other evening. On page 15, we have capital improvement fund and outlay of 100,000 each. We have the chlorine contact tanks at the sewer plant, 400,000, RBCs 1B and 2B at the sewer plant, 1,250,000, secondary sludge returns, piping and valves of 250,000, lead service lines, annual contribution of 100,000. We've concluded the budget process. I believe this budget meets the public's demand and need for critical services. I want to thank Tom Ferry and all the staff for helping me put this budget together for the council and their thorough review that we conducted several weeks ago. And I ask that the council adopt this budget tonight. Thank you.
Any comments, feedback from the council with regards to the budget presentation? I mean, we've had several budget hearings, conversations, presentations from the staff, certainly our CFO and others. We've all reviewed the budget line item by line item. But if there are any other comments, please share them.
Just appreciate the work that goes into it.
I second that sentiment. That's it, really. I don't have any other comments. Just appreciate all the hard work.
I want to thank Tom and all the staff for all the work that they put into this budget and keeping the rate, the tax increase on an average home to $36, which is $3 a month. I actually studied all the rate increases from 2003 till now. And this is one of the lowest, other than when we had basically a 0 in 1 year. Starting when I got on council, before that, we were looking at 3-digit increases per year, some of them rather high. We haven't had a 3-digit since 2011.
2010, yeah.
So I want to thank those that have been on the council and the work that all of you do, especially the staff, in keeping those tax increases down.
Yeah, no, I mean, Sandy well said. I agree. I don't know that everybody realizes that, you know, we have a 12-month calendar like everybody else, but this process starts back in October and it's a 6-month process with a lot of hard work and a lot of hours to work on a municipal budget. And, you know, the first presentation that Tom and the team did, we talk about the third of our properties are non-ratables and 53 cents of every dollar goes to the Board of Ed and, you know, 11 cents or whatever the percentage is that goes to the county. As we heard from the second presentation by our police department leadership, you know, services across the board, whether it's our first responders increase year over year, the number of people in town, we're the county seat. With that comes positive and not so positive attributes. And the level of services that we provide continue to grow each year, while at the same time, we're able to hold taxes at bay and do all the work that's required. You know, we have our own water and service utility that is self-liquidating. You know, to be one of just a few municipalities where our taxpayers don't have, you know, they have town water and sewer is a big deal. I know that's a big deal for our businesses. We have a lot of redevelopment projects that are adding to the revenue line in the budget, which also helps to keep the taxes down to offset the non-ratable properties. So another job well done. I appreciate the several hours that go in at every department level and then up to the leadership of the municipality in all the behind the scenes negotiations that happen to then come to the council for a presentation on the individual budgets would then all roll up. So job well done. I know that this is not the last thing that has to happen with the budget, and certainly what we continue to hear with regards to unfunded mandates from the state, the uncertainty with state aid. You know, the governor proposed a budget. I know they're all in the middle of Assembly and Senate budget hearings right now as we're talking, but the governor proposed a state budget that slashed line item appropriations. It slashed municipal support, and it slashed many, if not all, of the human services grants that are given throughout the state. So for the municipality to put forth a responsible budget, I think continues to demonstrate the professionalism and the capabilities and the skills that exist within our staff. So thank you, Tom, for that presentation. Tom, any other comments from your end?
Okay.
Tom Ferry, any comments from the CFO's office?
If I could just, in today's economy, every dollar counts.
Absolutely.
And it's also important to note that this $36 a year increase is just the municipal share,
Mhm.
33-ish% of your tax bill. So while this might seem like a great number, you know, we need to see what the county and the school board is gonna look like as well.
Mhm.
And a yes vote tonight means that, at least on our side, the municipality side.
We've done our
that
part.
We've done our part, and we think that each dollar that we are collecting has an appropriate, equitable use in the back.
Mhm.
And I think we're there.
Agreed. Well said. At this point, then I will open the budget to public comment. If there are any comments with regards to the budget, this is the time to come forward. Seeing none, Mr. Russo, are there any comments online? Or requests for comments online?
Not at this time.
All right, we will close the budget hearing to the public then, and I need a motion to act on the budget.
I'll make a motion to act on the budget.
And I will second that motion.
We have a motion by Deputy Mayor Dixon, a second by Councilwoman Diglio. A roll call vote, please.
Mr. Coos,
Yes.
Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
Mrs. Diglio,
Yes,
Mrs. Teets,
Yes,
Mayor LaFois.
Yes, and then we have resolution 114-2025. Well, I guess that would be the resolution that we just did, right? And that, so I just want to make note that that is adoption of the municipal budget as well as the water and sewer utility budget. So they're technically, as we know, two things, but we've just moved forward on both. All right, concludes formal business. I will move on to council and manager comments. Mr. Russo,
Nothing, thank you.
Councilmember Coos.
To the cowards, you know, I stand by my decision this evening, and not to broach providing legal advice, but there are alternative options in cases like this. At some point, people may seek temporary restraining orders, injunctions, but that is on your end to determine. Tonight, we voted on this, the bid was awarded. This is where we're at.
Councilmember Diglio,
I have no further comments.
Councilmember Teets.
just real quick, I couldn't find my notes before, but I did attend the school board meeting. I'll bring back some minutes from that. But the school is also, working on their budget now as well. And the business administrator, Mr. Skalski, started the initial process with the school board the other night. So they're working towards that. And also just a little bit of good news from the school is that Dr. Piccirillo has joined the chamber, Sandy. So we'll be interacting with him more and collaborating. So look forward to that. And I also learned that Jenny Derricks, she got recognized at the state FBLA. So we heard Dr. Piccirillo mention how well the students did. But I also found out that, Tap into Newton got recognized. And she was the business, I think it was, the business leader.
Advisor.
And which was great because, she's promoting the schools and all the wonderful things that the schools are doing. So I was very happy to hear that and
Yeah,
look forward to reaching out to her.
that's great. Thank you for the updates from the school
Yep.
board.
Thank you.
Michelle, anything else? No, Deputy Mayor Dixon.
Nothing.
All right, and I thought that I already shared my updates. So if there's nothing else, I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 8:45 PM.
I'll second.
A motion by Councilwoman Teets and a second by Councilman Coos to adjourn at 8:45. All in favor?
All right.
Uh,
Any opposed?
Joe's number.